Alright guys, welcome back again. He must have eyes in the back of his head. He swings his sword casually, like he's batting aside a fly. I can dodge it. I won't let an arm that's completely frozen hit me so easily. Damn, my body's sinking. He must have grazed my leg. Damn him. He didn't even touch my leg, but he somehow managed to break it anyway. I can't do that. I can't let Tosaka die. What do I need to do to save her? A weapon. A blade would be best. At my feet, broken pieces of the bow. Above me, Berserker's sword swinging right at me. There's no time to think. I let magical energy flow through me. The strengthening succeeds easily, but down comes Berserker's sword. The fragments are finally pulverized. I meant to dodge, but instead my body slams to the ground. Clearly, there was no point in strengthening broken shards. I'll have to do this from scratch. It shouldn't be impossible. Anyone can imitate, as long as they have an example to follow. I just need to duplicate the foundation, structure, work, experience, time, and... You'll give me the goddamn time to do it. The giant turns around. It must have decided to kill the little nuisance before finishing Tosaka off. I push up from the ground and glare at the giant. There's no fear. I'm too burnt out for fear. But behind me... I see someone prepared to disappear. I see someone determined to use the sacred sword. Nuh-uh, no. Hold back on that. Don't use it. Wind peels back from the blade. The golden sword begins to reveal itself in Saber's hand. I told her not to use it. The sword I told her to never use, no matter what. I snap. The last thread that had been holding me together finally gives. My left hand burns. A command spell stroke disappears. I don't care. To hell with that. All I know is that if she uses it, she'll disappear. You're already on your last legs just from unleashing your sword. You can't use it right now. So just hold on. If you can't use your sword, I'll make one you can use. It's so obvious. It's the only thing I can do. I have to make it. I have to make something that won't lose. I have to imagine the strongest weapon. I have to imagine the ultimate imitation. It has to fool everyone, even me. It shouldn't be that hard. It's not something impossible. Since the beginning, my body has been specialized magic circuit for this purpose alone. Project Saber's sword. Projected Saber's sword while fighting Berserker. I leap up. My entire body burns like it's on fire. My left hand is crimson. Saber's voice rings with shocked disbelief. She's staring at the weapon in my hands. At the thing that shouldn't exist. The sword seems to have a will of its own. Hell yeah, cut off that arm. The golden blade moves as it's being drawn to the giant's arm. It slashes at him, tearing through the arm. Tosaka falls to the ground along with the arm that had been holding her. The golden sword shatters, as if it had been made of glass. My blood begins to flow backward. It doesn't matter. The sword broke. That's impossible. If I imitated that sword, it shouldn't have shattered like that. It shattered because it wasn't sufficient. My image of the sword wasn't enough. Berserker's furious gaze turns towards me. Yeah, now I'm the threat. His massive sword swings up at me. This time, he's determined to cut me in half. It doesn't matter. Berserker, you're not my enemy right now. I'm only fighting against one person right now. The last one wasn't perfect. My image of it was flawed, so the sword that should have been invincible broke. If I'm to duplicate things, I need to work on not just their shape, but also their maker. I hear the others holding their breath. In front of me, I see the axe sword rushing toward me like an oncoming storm, and a half-formed sword ready to block it. In desperation, I try to use the sword to block the incoming blade. But that doesn't matter to me. Right now, I need to finish this blade to make it real. Another mistake. You're not fit for fighting Shiro, Emiya. Your battle is supposed to be a mental one. A fight against your own self. You don't have to remind me. What I need to do is simple. I concentrate. I'm challenging my own self. There can be neither deviation nor compromise. Determining creation ideology. Anticipating base essence. Duplicating material structure. Replicating the forger's skill. Resonating with the possessor's experience. Imitating the uncountable years. And surpassing every manufacturing process. Illusion shall bind with reality to forge a sword. Woo! The giant roars. My sword deflects the countless gusts assailing me from the enemy's furious attacks. But that's about it. I'm knocked away from him. The moment I come to, the sword leaves everything to me. The attacks I blocked so easily a moment ago now toss me around effortlessly. I can't feel my arms. The skin of my wrist is blistered and red. I'm surprised I can even keep my grip on the sword. My legs do not work. I can only imagine every muscle shredded to ribbons. I can't get up. I made a sword that surpasses Berserker, but that's all. I'm just the one who made it. I can't wield the sword I worked so hard to make. A shadow looms over me. He must know who he has to kill first now. I rush away and Berserker rushes after me. Like a gust of wind, his enormous sword swings toward me. But it is deflected. In complete disbelief, I realize another hand is closed around my own. The air splits around me. The giant attacks with all his might, trying to destroy everything around him. But right before that happens... She's so close I can hear her voice over the din. If Berserker's a stormfront coming to attack me, Saber is a gale rushing to my side. Saber sprints over to me and twists around, gripping me firmly. The rock sword shatters. The golden flash explodes to the giant's axe sword and continues ahead, slicing through Berserker's rock-like body without slowing. Maybe I copied the form so well that I copied some of his abilities too. The golden sword lodges deep in Berserker's body and glows so brilliantly that light pours from the giant's body. And then in an instant, the light fades and the forest falls silent. All the strength flees my limbs. The heat that had been surging through me rapidly cools. The sword I made begins to disappear. I watch it vacantly. Saber and I remain together, holding the sword in our hands until it's disappeared completely. Wind sweeps through the clearing. The earth-shaking howl and the blade that had churned up the very air are gone. Hold on a second. This whole time, Did I not raise his thing? Hold on. Advance. Sound. 2. Let's see. Oh, sheesh. No wonder. My bad. Well, he's dead now, so we won't be able to hear him completely anymore. I thought, Who am I missing here? There's a few more people I'm missing. But I can't do anything with their volume until it's unlocked. See, I wish I could just do this already so that it's set, but... okay. Well, we're good now. The previously invincible giant, now immobile, looks to the knight who defeated him and speaks in a low, rumbling voice.
これはカリバーン。王を選定する岩の剣。永遠に失われた私の剣。ですが。
今のは貴様の剣ではなかろう。それはその男が作り上げた幻想に過ぎ。
Saber nods quietly.
所詮はまがいもの。二度とは存在せぬ剣だ。だが、しかし。
Berserker's chest opens up. He begins to dissolve. His body begins to crumble like wet sand, beginning where the sword pierced him and rapidly expanding outward.
その幻想も侮れぬ。よもやただの一撃でこの身を7度滅ぼすとはな。
His dying words are spoken without emotion. The mad warrior keeps to his role until his very end, and fades away in a dispersing haze into the misty morning air. Dizziness rocks me where I stand. This is probably the price for such excessive use of magecraft. The blood that rages through me is putting pressure on my brain, sending far too much oxygen out to the rest of my body. Mine feels like it could split open. The enemy has disappeared, and whatever was numbing the pain earlier has faded. As if to make me pay the accumulated toll of this incredible battle, the dizziness and headache crash into me like twin meteors.
Shiro.
I'm about to collapse, but Saber supports me. Saber shouldn't have the energy for that either at this point.
いや、大丈夫だ。ところどころ骨が折れてるけど、命には別状はない。例の自然治癒も働いてるし、なんとかなる。
何を言うのです。あれだけの投影魔術を使ったのですから、今は休息を取らないと。
いや、けど。
There's someone I have to talk to first.
イリアスフィール。
Saber stands ready. Ilya stares at where Berserker had been standing, her eyes hollow.
ちょうどいい。何のつもりかは知りませんが、追う手間が省けました。潔く、ここで。
ダメだ、セイバー。イリアには手を出さないでくれ。バーサーカーがいなくなったんなら、イリアは。
I stop Saber with the last remaining strength I have. Ilya doesn't even seem to notice we're here. She just stares at the ground.
嘘。バーサーカー死んじゃったの。
She sounds like an abandoned child.
イリア。
Ilya lifts her head absent-mindedly. It happens suddenly. Ilya collapses like a puppet with his strings cut. I don't know what happened. I just stare at Ilya where she lies. And at almost the same moment, Tosaka raises her hand. She's freed now that Berserker's arm disappeared. I must have loosened up the moment I learned Tosaka was safe. My vision blurs and I can feel my body trying to pass out. I can't show that kind of weakness. We may have defeated Berserker, but we're still in the forest. Weary as we are, we have to force ourselves to get out of the forest. I look up at the sky as it begins to lighten. The town is a long way away. All my allies are wounded, and every single inch of me hurts. And yet, morning has come. We survived the night I was prepared not to. After defeating our greatest enemy, we leave the winter forest. Congrats. Holy crap. Yes, please. What is the difference here? Yeah, we'll save here. Interval level 4. The sky was still pale gray. Was it dawn or dusk? It's hard to tell. The vast sky overhead and a white field stretching out on all sides. The sky seemed close enough to touch. Clouds low enough to grab hold of. This was one of the battlefields she fought on. But there was no longer any cavalry in her service. The sprawling golden meadow was gone. Instead, unfolding under the dull sky, was the remnant of a battlefield. No emotion. She must have seen this kind of thing almost daily. Her desolate heart was empty. As she leaned against the golden sword, she exhaled deeply and let her shoulders relax. The battle must have ended. After glancing over the bodies of the defeated soldiers, she returned to her camp. Those were the battles she experienced. Her cold, calm demeanor remained unchanged. No matter the predicament she's been in, she remained just like the woman I've always known. And then I see the dream of a king. The moment she drew the sword, she stopped being human. She took over for her father as a feudal lord, and became a king with many knights. She was known as King Arthur, and Artoria, the life of the girl who once aspired to be a knight, changed so radically. She acted like she was the king's son. The ruler of territories and knights had to be male. Only her father and the mage knew the king was female. She covered herself in iron and hid the truth for the rest of her life. There were those who had their suspicions, but the king of knights who wielded the sacred sword knew neither injury nor age. Excalibur was blessed with the protection of the fairies, making its possessor immortal. As such, nobody questioned her tiny frame, which was too small for a knight, or her face, which may have appeared girlish. Instead, she was hailed as a truly beautiful king. And in fact, the king was invincible. Neither size nor appearance mattered. Those who lived in fear of the savage invaders desired a strong king, and the valiant knights who follow only a truly superior leader. The king satisfied each of these conditions, and so nobody questioned the king's identity. It did not matter if the king was a child or a woman. All that mattered was that the king protected the nation. The new king was fair and selfless, and always stood in the front line, fighting and defeating the nation's enemies in the battlefield. Many enemies and citizens died, but the king was always just, and she played her role as king better than anyone else. There was no room to suspect otherwise, and any such suspicions would be pointless while the king was right in any case. She knew no defeat on the battlefield. Her army reformed the lost cavalry, then charged across the battlefield, defeating foreign infantry and smashing through their defenses. Did she always stand on the front lines because her nation was behind her? Before she headed out to battle, she had to cast aside so many citizens. Once she was on the battlefield, she had to cut down all her enemies. As her battles were fought in defense of her nation, it was common to wring villagers dry to support the army. In that sense, no knight killed as many as she did. I can't tell if she ever really felt that burden. It's not something I can really know from a dream. But I do know she didn't have a moment's doubt or hesitation on the battlefield. Grief never touched her thoughts when she sat on the throne. A king is not human. Human emotions would make it impossible to protect people. She kept to her oath, never wavering. She addressed the issues facing her nation, and she worked on matters of political concern. She ruled without wavering, and she punished the deserving without error. And after winning so many battles, unifying so many clans, and punishing hundreds of criminals, King Arthur doesn't have a human heart. One of the knights in her entourage murmured this. Everyone must have felt the same way. The more perfectly she carried herself as a king, the more everyone questioned their monarch. There is no way someone devoid of human emotion can rule humans. Several reputable knights left the White Castle of Camelot, but the king accepted this as inevitable and incorporated it into her rule. And so the fair king, once so admired by her knights, began to isolate herself. Such trivialities were of no concern to the king. Even if she was deserted, feared, or betrayed, her heart would remain unchanged. It couldn't be helped. The moment she took that sword, she abandoned her emotions. And then her final battle began. The battle at Baden Hill ended in a complete victory, and that inescapable conclusion led to the savage clans finally offering peace. And so the nation that had been holding its breath waiting to be destroyed knew a moment of peace. The age of warfare where a nation leaned on a singular hero came to an end. Britain was finally going to become the nation she'd always dreamed of. The scene starts to fade away. I realize the dream is ending and I'm about to wake up. I can feel myself drifting closer to wakefulness. But before that happens, something really pissed me off. She's stupid. Oh, she's strong and a gifted fighter. But there's a difference between being good at fighting and being cut out for it. The people around her pissed me off too. If she didn't notice it, someone else around her should have told her, or she would go on making the same mistake forever. Seriously, how the hell did she have so many people around her and not one told her the truth? I wake up. We escaped Ilias Forest and returned home yesterday afternoon. Tosaka went back to her room complaining her stomach hurt, and my headache wasn't getting any better, so we all decided to just go to sleep. It must have been the extra weight I was lugging around. As soon as I got into bed, I couldn't get back up. Saber was the only one who seemed fine, and Tosaka and I left her to guard the house while we slept, and then...
半日眠ってたわけか。さすがに頭痛は収まってるな。
I'm relieved. The whole thing with Berserker. The headache I got after copying Saber's sword was unreal. If I had kept up, my head might well have just split down the middle. Then I noticed. Saber sitting on the floor right next to my head.
セバなんだよ、朝から神気臭い顔して。俺が眠ってる間に何かあったのか？
いいえ、ただ夢を見てしまったもので。
Ah, she saw my memories.
いえ、何でもありません。それより朝食にしましょう、シロ。もう起きる時間です。
Saber gets up and heads silently out of my room. What was that about? I don't know why Saber's acting strange. I'm really not sure, but...
枕元に正座してたってことは看病しててくれたのかな。
The moment I have that thought, the scene from last night comes back to me.
何考えてんだ。
I shake my head to rid myself of those impure thoughts. That night, my contact with Saber was entirely about my duty as a master. If I don't rationalize it like that, I'll never be able to look at Saber again.
平常心、平常心。昨日帰ってくるときはいつも通りだったじゃないか。それでいいんだ。それで。
No, I was actually just tired yesterday, but I still need to act normal. Besides, Saber wouldn't like me acting like
よ
this.
し。とにかく落ち着いて朝飯作らないと。
I take a deep breath and get changed. It's 9 in the morning. Saber hasn't eaten since lunch yesterday, so she must be hungry. Nine is so late, it's practically not even morning anymore. Alright, so before we continue on, guys, we end up getting a new servant info, and I'm pretty sure it's on Berserker. Holy shit. A on everything. That makes perfect sense, though. Hero info, and there it is, his profile. The greatest hero in Greek mythology, the demigod hero, is a product of the chief deity Zeus and a human woman. Heracles was skilled in every aspect, but there was a big problem with his personality. During his childhood, he beat his lyre teacher to death over a trivial matter. He then spent his days as a shepherd until adulthood, in order to reform himself into a composed man. Heracles, who grew up to be a fine young man, accomplished many great deeds that caused the king of Thebes to grant his daughter, Megara, to him. They had 2 children and he earned the right to succeed the king. Heracles was young and strong and had already become an existence that no human could hope to defeat. It seemed as if the rest of Heracles' life with his family was going to be smooth sailing. I bit my tongue by accident. Ow. However, Zeus's wife Hera detested Heracles because he was the child of Zeus and a human, and influenced his fate every opportunity. Hera instilled madness in Heracles, which made him go insane, and he ended up killing Megara and his 2 children. I almost bit my tongue again. I don't know why that's happening. Troubled by the sins that he committed, he received an oracle. He was to atone by becoming a slave for Eurystheus, the man who snatched the kingship that would have originally been his to claim. Eurystheus was jealous of the strong hero, Heracles, and gave him many difficult tasks, declaring that he would stay a slave until he finished them. They were all labors that could not be achieved by regular humans. They became widely known as the 12 labors of Heracles. There were only 10 labors that the gods had imposed as punishment for Heracles' sins, but 2 more labors were added by Eurystheus because he did not approve of the fulfillment of the 2 of them. But Heracles managed to complete even those tasks, and it may have been because he had been granted freedom, but he even received an immortal body as proof of his great deeds. This marked the beginning of the legend of the greatest hero of Greece, Heracles, who accomplished deeds equivalent to the Argo expedition and the Trojan War by himself. However, Heracles' life after that was filled with madness. Hera's hatred was endless, and Heracles, who was supposed to be immortal, was poisoned by one of his wives. Aw, come on, no! The great hero who fought a competitive battle against the sun god as a human was slowly getting killed due to the god's persistent jealousy. While on the verge of his death, Heracles burned his own body, which was still afflicted with poison, and entrusted himself to Zeus's judgment. The gods approved of Heracles' great deeds in a conference prepared a seat for him in Olympus after his death, effectively deifying him. Heracles went mad many times in Greek mythology, but originally he was an excellent soldier who could use any weapon. Heracles actually possesses attributes that could allow him to be categorized as any of the regular servant classes excluding Castor. The best noble phantasm that he owns was earned during the 12 labors. It is a bow and arrow called 9 lives. Ha, ha, ha. Nice. I think we went over the skills too. Noble phantasm was still question mark. Immortality that has been gained from God's blessing. Curse turns body into sturdy armor. Nullifies all attacks rank B or lower. The 12 labors, a hidden ability. Become automatically resurrected in the event one dies. Raze has a stock of 11. Yep, that makes sense. Berserker will not disappear unless he's defeated 12 times. Yep. Makes perfect sense. As hungry as Saber must be, I should probably make a hearty breakfast.
シロ、今朝は私とあなただけですが、リンを起こさなくていいのですか？
ああ、みんなまだ寝てるんだろ。昨日が昨日だし、無理に起こすこともない。飯は作っておけば勝手に食べるだろうし。
そうですか。それでは早めに支度をしてもらえると助かります。もうこんな時間になってしまいましたから。
What Saber wants, Saber shall have.
分かってる。体の調子もいいし、食べ終わったら道場に行こ
う。道場に行くとは、まだ私と剣の鍛錬を続けるのですか？
なんで？日課じゃないか、あれ。どうしたセイバー？なんか変なこと言ったか、俺。
あ、いえ。もう鍛錬はしないのだろうと勝手に思い込んでいました。バーサーカーが倒れた今、シローがそこまで必死になる理由はなくなったのではないかと。
そっか。言われてみればそうかもしれない。
The common enemy we all share in Berserker is gone now. We teamed up to take on an enemy far stronger than us, and that's also why I trained so fiercely in such a short period of time.
でも鍛錬は続けるぞ。俺はまだ半人前だし、セイバーは剣を持つと本音を出すからな。その方が俺も話してて楽だ。
Well, I say easy, but what I mean is that I kind of enjoy it.
はあ。道場での私は本音を出しているのでしょうか？
出してるよ。少なくとも気兼ねはしてないだろう。俺もその方が楽だし、セイバーも肩の力が抜けていいんじゃないか？ともかく午前中はセイバーと剣を合わせるのが日課なんだ。数少ない俺の楽しみを取らないでくれ。
I take the ground beef and pork, green onions, mushrooms, onions, and eggs out of the refrigerator and head to the kitchen. All I need is panko, sake, and cooking oil.